Hello folks and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by the head of sport in the Nenagh and Shane Brophy. After a couple of quiet months, Jesus, really getting busy all of a sudden, Shane. Tipperary hurlers beat Dublin over the weekend. I was at that game. The Tipperary footballers went to Longford and had a victory after the opening round defeat. Tipperary's ladies footballers had a win over Laois. Plenty of other stuff happened, but there's only one place to start. Nenagh CBS winning their first ever Harty Cup title with a brilliant victory over Ardscoil Reach, 216 to 21 points. Late goal, scrambled over the line. Doesn't matter how it happened though, but it was, what an occasion.
Oh yeah, just artificial now. It was a great occasion. Like Cusick Park was the ideal venue. Like 3,500 people there. Really cracking atmosphere. We got a great game, and I suppose it was nearly for Nenagh to win it finally. To do it the way they did, last minute goal, and then like to top it up to win your first Dean Ryan and your first Harty in the same year, that's just stuff of dreams. Like this year it'll be hard to be beaten by Nenagh CBS. And I know they've won a Croke Cup back in 2012, but it sort of felt a small bit hollow that they weren't Harty winners. And I know it was something I said on Tip FM last night, and maybe a lot of people from other, maybe like the Kieran's and the Galway schools don't understand. Like the Harty is it for school. Like Munster schools, the Harty is the dream. Croke Cup is the bonus. And for Nenagh to finally do it was just incredible. Like you just thought that there's something spirit in these guys. Like to think twice in a row they were behind in injury time and they found a way to win the games.
Yeah, and just to even go through some of the scoring, man of the match in the Nenagh Guardian, which is out now, Kieran Foley. The scorers for Nenagh: Darren McCarthy, he scored 7 points, 4 of those frees. Austin Duff with 1-1. Owen Duhan and Mason Cawley scored 3 apiece. Andy Hoolan with a goal, and Kieran Foley, who I mentioned earlier, with 2 points. So give me your take on the game. What's the stuff that kind of springs to mind when you think of how this finished up?
Yeah, I suppose the great thing was that both teams got into it early. Like there was no nerves. Nenagh got off the mark for about 77 seconds, Darren McCarthy, and I suppose for him to get the score, the spiritual leader of the team, I think it just infused a lot of confidence to the rest of the guys. I suppose when they went 9-5 down, it just felt like the game was starting to get away from them. Ardscoil Reach certainly seemed to have the better structure. They knew what they were about. They played Jamie Milan as a sweeper. Rian McNamara dropped back as man marker with Darren McCarthy, and it certainly seemed to stifle him. Dara struggled to find space. Ardscoil Reach, a lot like Limerick, they made sure their half of the field, their defensive half of the field, was pretty well stocked with players, and when they attacked, they had an awful lot of space to run into. Like Fintan Fitzgerald really caused an awful lot of problems, like 4 points in play for centre forward. Really, they just looked at a greater threat, and I suppose it's something that Nenagh have done all year is they've held Austin Duff back as their impact sub. And talking to a lot of people, like Duff should be starting, but if he starts, they lose that sort of difference maker just to give them a bit of a pep if they needed it. Look, he came on and within 4 minutes he had struck a goal in the point. He's a real diminutive player, like he's from the Duff stock and Tumivara, and we've seen them over the years, really tough, gritty hurlers, good hurlers. And look, for Nenagh to go in at half time at 1-8 to 11 points, like they were in a good place. Like they were as underdogs, they were in the game, like, and in this, I suppose, into the second half, like it was just nearly score for a lot of that second half. There were, even though it felt that looked like Ardscoil Reach probably had the technically more of the better players, on Nenag's work rate and their hook and their block and their intensity, like it forced Ardscoil into a lot of handling errors, particularly unforced ones in defence, and like coming out with the ball, overshooting passes. And I suppose Diarmuid Stritch, probably the one player would have been familiar with from Clonlara when they beat Killadangan. He was their star man in the semi-final against Thurles CBS. He had a very, very poor game. Like he's touching everything. I don't know whether the nerves got to him or what. Like it just wasn't. He couldn't settle on the ball, and he was eventually replaced. But look, in the second half, they tended to bypass the Nenagh half back line. they got a lot of well-placed ball into Mark O'Brien at full forward. Like, he was excellent left-handed hurlers. A lot of Lark Orbit in him. Real, looks like a bit of a, I wouldn't say a maverick, but like a guy who could really burn a team. And like he was definitely their key man in the second half. But Kieran Foley going centre back in the second half really seemed to just galvanise that Nenagh defence. And then he got 2 points in play. Both were in the second half. He was just able to drift. When you're recycling ball out, they were able to work it to him in the middle of the field. And of course, we all remember from 2 years ago at the minors, he's very proficient from long range, and he got 2 of those great points. And then it also allowed Mason Cawley, I know you were taking with him, he great power, like he's very able to break the lines. He got 3 points in play. He plays an awful lot of rugby, Mason. He would have been in with Munster academies the last few years. You can see there's a little bit of his rugby element there. If he sees a gap, he's inclined to go for it. Got a couple of points, and Laois was just I suppose when you get into injury time and you go a point down and then you go 2 points down. I suppose that was the dreaded thing for Ardscoil Reach when Patrick Carney got the lead score. Like, that was a brilliant score as it was. Like, it was just weaved his way in from the wing, and then it's just goal or bust for Nenagh. And just the way even the goal, the way they got it, like, just every time the ball broke, it was a Nenagh player who got to the break. Like, the free that fell short, Andy Hoolan got it, moved it on to Austin Duff, moved it on to Brian O'Mara. Brilliant shot that was saved from 25 yards. Then look, Dara Tracy got the break. Every time, it was just relentless for Nenagh. I think that just epitomised their whole effort. When that last play was on, it was Nenagh who won the breaking ball every time, and then Andy Hoolan gets the folklore score.
And it's just brilliant for Tipperary hurling in general to have a team that's won the Harty Cup. Like, even just in terms of what's coming through, we know that in the semi-finals, of the 34 players used between Thurles and Nenagh, every one of them are Tipperary players. Think of even the minors a couple of years ago beating Offaly in the final, last second goal. Belief was there all the way up. Like, that's all important stuff for Tipperary.
Yeah, that's one thing that encouraged me, and I would have thought the Tip had lost a bit of it down through the years. That have we lost our bit of grittiness, like in all grades, like just in terms of, I suppose you look at that Kilkenny team, they were fabulous hurlers, but by God, their mentality was teak tough. And we've seen from that minor group, and hopefully from this Nenagh team, that maybe that bit of teak toughness mentality starting to come back into Tip, that maybe like Nenagh were underdogs and like Ardscoil Reach were a fine team, lots of fine hurlers, but it doesn't mean that they go and win the game. It has to be earned on the field. And
it's some credit to the management team that, like, I'm just looking there, I think maybe 8 or 9 different clubs are represented in the starting team there, that the management are able to pull them together and get such a performance like that. And like you were saying, there was times during the second half where I thought, geez, Ardscoil could pull away here, because Nenagh kept hitting the sweeper, banging ball up the field. But I think Ardscoil just couldn't get the extra scores to start pulling away, and then Nenagh sniffed the chance and got back in. But it's huge credit to the management to pull this together.
Oh, absolutely. And I know it's something, I was doing interviews outside the dressing room when Paul Flanagan, one of the Ardscoil mentors, went into the Nenagh dressing room afterwards. I suppose the one thing he remarked on was the togetherness of that Nenagh group, and he said he could feel the sort of special bond and that was there. And I think it was something that Donnacha O'Donnell and the manager and Darren McCarthy have mentioned a lot in the run to the final, that bond. And sometimes a team just has that special vibe, and like they just work hard for each other. And even when maybe an opponent might have more of the better quality players, and I'm not saying Nenagh were inferior in a lot of ways, it's just, I suppose, technically and maybe in terms of a game plan, I thought Ardscoil Reach, you probably saw more of what they were about. But like when it came to the battle, Nenagh were definitely not found second best in terms of that. And like, you'd have to think that a lot of these guys are going to get better. Like you're going to carry the confidence of being a Munster champion now, and they should be maybe even, like, you think Darren McCarthy he still got 3 points to play out of 7, and he was nearly double marked a lot of time. But any time he got the ball in space, like you could see the panic in Ardskull's eyes, like, and he was nearly fouled before he could get going too far, like, so, and like if he's able to have a game where he's able to regularly hit the scoreboard from play, like Nenagh could go a long way in maybe in the Crow Cup.
Yeah, and just how will they settle down now for the mocks and the leaving cert after all that?
Yeah, they started yesterday. I suppose that's probably the cruel thing for them. They haven't been able to have a formal welcome home in the school yet. I'm sure they'd love to have had that for bringing the cup in through the gate. And like, I think I don't know if you've seen a few of the videos from Saturday night, like then Sunday in Tumivara, like they celebrated it well. As they're entitled to. But I suppose they have to taper it back a small bit because I'm sure I'd say a lot of Nenagh mentors will probably be in Kilkenny today for the Leinster final, because Nenagh are playing the losers of that in the quarter final on Saturday week. So they've got to dust themselves down pretty quickly and refocus for that. Like, just, I suppose it's unfortunate maybe in the way that the rota, I think for people who are not aware with the Crow Cup format, which no Ulster representation, it's the finalists from the other three provinces go through, and on a rota system, it alternates which two winners go straight to a semi-final. And this year the rota is the Leinster and Connacht winners go straight through, and the Munster champions have to play a quarter final. And I'm saying Nenagh would much prefer maybe the extra couple of weeks to enjoy the high and come down from it, but they've got to come down pretty quick. And I'm sure once they see who they're playing, once they know later on today who they're playing on Saturday week, they'll refocus pretty quick.
Geez, that is a quick turnaround, isn't it, Shane?
Yeah. It is, yeah.
Yeah,
it is. But look, it's maybe in one way it mightn't be a bad thing either. Like, it's maybe sometimes if it goes on, if the celebrations go on too long, it might be getting too soft. While they're probably in the zone now still after Saturday, and like they'll probably watch today St. Kieran's against Kilkenny CBS. You're probably looking at St. Kieran's be the favourites to win that, so you could see a repeat of the 2012 Crow Cup final when Nenagh beat Kilkenny CBS in the quarter final. And it's a tough route, like, to get to, but then there's a huge carrot there, like All Ireland final at Crow Park and St. Patrick's Day, like, and Nenagh have won it before, so like, and like there's enough there for the management to say, lads, okay, we've achieved our goal of winning the Harty, the Holy Grail, but let's go and complete the whole bloody thing. Let's go and win the whole shot. And look, I think it's going to be tough. Like, I would think if Nenagh Nenagh lost the Harty final and came back and won the Crow Cup. Ardskull Reach did the same 2 years ago. They lost the Harty to Tulla and came back and won the Crow Cup. So look, it's losing a provincial final, it's not too detrimental. Like I'd say if Nenagh did get to the final, I'd say the last team they probably would want to see is Ardskull Reach. Like I said, it's hard to beat the same team twice, but look, Nenagh have to take care of their own business first. Like, I'd fancy Ardskull Reach to beat the Connacht runners up. And look, after that, semi-finals would be hard to know, but I suppose for Nenagh, just to get the focus would be on Saturday week. But look, even if they don't progress too far in the competition, like, that'll be still a brilliant year for them.
And would you know of many other links to the 2012 other than Donnacha O'Donnell, who was joint manager back then?
Jack Peters, mentor on this team, he was fullback on that team. He also won an All Ireland minor that year at cornerback. So like, yeah, they had that connection all right. So like, yeah, and they definitely used it in terms of like Jack's and Donnacha's experience and maybe of what worked and what didn't work in the build up to that final. I suppose there was a lot of expectation, and I suppose like in the previous four finals Nenagh lost, they got off to bad starts in all of them, and like they were nearly beaten by 15-20 minutes into the first half. Whereas this time they were in the game from the start, and like that was half the battle. And you knew if Nenagh were in this with 15 minutes to go, they had every chance to win it.
And Sean Kennelly was part of the backroom team, wasn't he? But he was up for Parnell Park the other day as well. I'm sure he was, like, because as they were doing the warm-up, I was watching the match on the stream. So I can imagine it would be tough for the likes of him being involved.
Absolutely, yeah. I should say he was name checked by Darren McCarthy in his speech afterwards, and I did think maybe that the fact I'm sure Sean was a little bummed that he went all the way to Dublin and didn't get used, like of all the subs that was used. And I think Michael Breen wasn't in Dublin. I know he was over the Clonmel High School team that were in the Munster final on Saturday as well. They lost to Lismore, and maybe Michael's carrying a knock, I don't know, but maybe he was given a little leeway to say, okay, you take care of that business. But maybe Sean Kennelly, but that's maybe Sean Kennelly's probably in a different space where he's trying to forge his way in, where might say Michael Breen is pretty safe, or say Liam Cahill is pretty safe, and he's acknowledged that Michael Breen is certainly part of his plans later on. I'd be surprised if we don't see Michael Breen play on Sunday against Galway.
And we'll just rewind then to the Tipperary fixture against Dublin at the weekend. Finished up 227 to 22 points. I was at the game, so feel free to ask me.
Just before we finish, we have loads of coverage of the Nenagh CBS game and the Guardian today, 4, 5, 6 pages of photos and reports and reaction. I suppose that one of those editions that if you're a current Nenagh alum or a past Nenagh alum, it's one to have, because you'll be able to pull it out 20, 30, 40 years time, and you'll be able to look back. And it's probably something I remarked actually in I don't know, you went to school in Tipperary. I didn't. I went to school in Offaly, but I never realized maybe until recently how big the Harty was, and how it's nearly, we don't have that sort of, how would you say, link like American schools have. Once you go to a certain college, you're nearly linked for life, and you sort of, even if you always identify with that school, whereas the Harty Cup in terms of GAA, that's sort of nearly the strong, apart from maybe, that's probably the strongest thing we have in terms of your school days being linked to what you do afterwards. You always feel linked to it. Yeah, and if you can go on a good run, you do get that bond that you're talking about there, because I'm involved with the freshers, and I see that players are just being pulled left, right, and centre all throughout the winter. And it's very difficult for them to get any sort of a run together. And because lads are on county panels and whatever, they can't even go on the beer during the week with their friends, which of course is where the friendships are forged. Not always, but look, let's call a spade first year in college. That's where it happens. So if you can be with a team and have a bit of a journey, that bond is brilliant for the rest of your life. So but even being past pupils, I saw Stephen O'Brien and Kevin Gubbins were members of the 2012 team, were there in supporting the team last weekend. I'm sure, just that sort of, it's probably one of the few, maybe a lot like the Leinster Schools Cup in rugby, the sort of, that special thing between secondary school and adult life. It sort of follows you wherever you go. We do, the Fitzgibbon and Sigerson doesn't have that sort of follow on. It's sort of, it for that tight group of players in that 1 year, it's a great bond. But for everyone else on campus, a lot of them don't really know. But isn't it like the culmination of 5 or 6 years of being in secondary school together, sitting in each other's pockets for 5 or 6 years? The lads that are on that team are probably sitting beside each other in the same classes for year after year after year. Slating each other in under 19 championship a couple of weeks ago, so. Yeah, there you go. We'll move on to the Tip victory over Dublin. So 227 to 22 points. I was at it. I'm sure you watched it after the fact. I'd imagine you were distracted down in Ennis whenever the game was going on. But the first thing I would say about it is really comprehensive team performance. Grod O'Connor scored 12, plenty of place balls in there. Jake Morris scored 1-4. That will catch the eye. But across the board, everyone played well. Not too many were amazing, which I think is a great sign of the team, that you win like that, you put up that score, which translates to 33 points, and still you feel like, wow, there's so much more to come, and you're not even thinking about the lads who weren't playing, the likes of Jason Ford, Michael Breen, and so on. Yeah, no, it was from driving home, listening to a lot of it, and I caught the highlights. I think from the tone of what I was hearing on the radio, it wasn't, how would you say, probably real first round National League hurling, and never sparked into top gear at any stage. Where it sounded like Tip really hit the ground running and got a lot of spade work done inside the first 15 minutes, while maybe Dublin were still in maybe pre-season mode. Tipper hit the ground running, and just thought the notable feature from the game, and I particularly in Tip's first half when they had the breeze behind them, and it reminded me a lot of the way Waterford and Clare play, is that, and I know it's something that frustrated you over the years, the long range shooting, that if just based on Saturday, that if Tip got a sighter of goal within 90 yards and the shot was on, they took it on. If they had the space to take it on, they didn't take it on under pressure. Like if the opening was there, they went for it, and they were very accurate.
Yeah, like I would have worked out at halftime what the scoring efficiency was, and it was 63%. Now you'd probably like it a little bit better than that, but that's not bad at all. Like you see Dublin's, theirs was closer to 50%, maybe 52%, something like that. And in the second half then, Tipperary had dominated the first half, and what Dublin were really struggling with was their own puck out. So, like you said, Tipperary played with a bit of a hill, which goes down. The pitch very much leans down towards the golf course end there in Parnell Park. And Dublin struggled when they were going out short because they were turned over. They struggled going long because Tipperary had to attack that puck out down the hill. Started the second half, Tipperary struggled the same way, and then started hitting high puck out on top of Grode O'Connor. He started either breaking it or winning it, and I think that helps. And that's something I think we're going to see throughout the year, that Grode O'Connor has to be like, if we're under any pressure at all, put it up on top of the big lad and let him win it or do something with it. But the last, let me just see exactly how long it was. The last 25 minutes, we'll say, including injury time, Tipperary had 14 chances, scored 2-11. And that was just Dublin were sort of pulling back a little bit of a sniff. Tipperary went, and that was it. So, like, in terms of scoring efficiency, Tips just went through the roof.
Yeah, no, it was very, very impressive from that score. Like, and I suppose it just, look, I know there was a little concern listening to local radio that Tips lead was whittled down to 4, and it was almost 2. Like, I think there was one shot that went narrowly over the bar, and like, I suppose, look, another team is probably going to get a purple patch, so I suppose it's all about weathering that storm and not taking on too much water. I think you'd have to be pretty happy with, like, I think it's something we mentioned last week, that the options Tip have between 5 and 12, and like the guys that didn't feature last weekend, and seeing how effective like Willie Connors and Owen Connolly were in the middle of the field, and Robert Byrne and in the halfback and Conor Bowe in the halfback. We know Brian O'Mara, how good he can be. So, and like we have a lot more guys coming in. I do think that while we definitely had, like, if Dan McCormack to come back, Seamus Kennedy to come back, Noel McGrath to come back, there's going to be he's going to have a lot of horses for courses options. Like, if he, like, and I was even looking ahead to the summer, the fact that we have to play Limerick and 6 days later we're going to have to go to war. There's no doubt about it. It doesn't matter what happens against Limerick, win, lose or draw. He's going to have to probably make 5 changes for the following weekend. Even he's going to have to take guys out that have emptied themselves and get 5 fresh guys in from the. It's just we saw what happened to Waterford last year when they emptied themselves against Limerick and were so flat the week after against Cork. Like, so to have that potentially known going into the summer, that I can particularly that middle, it's the 5 to 12. If I could maybe take 3 or 4 guys out and put 3 or 4 guys in, and the balance of the team or the makeup of the team you won't lose anything really.
Yeah, and 12 different scorers in this game as well. No, that's very nice. Like Craig Morgan, he looks like a man who's back to himself. And I don't think we've even mentioned the fact that Cathal Barrett wasn't there. And, you'd hear plenty of chatter from other counties about, like him having a tough day against Conor Whelan last year after being out for 5 weeks or whatever it was, and you come back and Tipperary are very flat, so therefore brilliant ball is going in against you, against one of the most explosive forwards in the country. So, I mean, that guy
it was a bad matchup. Like, it was a bad, like, I don't think, like, Conor Whelan's a bull. Conor Whelan probably is Ronan Maher's wheelhouse. Maybe that's, I don't know whether it was just for Sunday. We'll know probably next weekend if Ronan is back at full back again. That's probably sells us that's probably where they're looking at Ronan for the championship. Like with Michael Breen not being there, like we're short on options at full back. Like if Michael Breen starts full back next Sunday against Galway, probably means okay, he's definitely back to number 1 there. It was just Ronan was filling in for the day at full back. But I think I have been wondering, like, where is Ronan's best position? Like, is it like, he sort of sometimes he's not if he's caught too far out the field at centre back. He's caught for pace when he's without the ball. So maybe, but then if you put him at full back and you have him at Galan chasing out to the corner, he's going to be in trouble there because he just won't have the legs to go with a Galan. So maybe it'll be in terms of who they're playing and maybe what opposition forwards will bring. It might dictate where Ronan plays.
Yeah, to some degree, but
he's going to play, but maybe it might be a different position for a different day.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, there'll probably be an element of horses for courses. Like, I'm very interested to see, is Robert Byrne going to be playing centre back for the championship? Because clearly, Liam Cannon and Michael Beavens know him very well from underage, and he was the centre back for that under-21 team back in 2018. So they trust him to some degree as well. And he's mobile, he's big, he's aggressive, he can hurl. But then you're looking at, if everyone's available, could you have a half back line with Brian O'Mara, Michael Breen, Conor Bowe? Organize them any way you like, and then you're like, but you also have Robert Byrne, and you just wonder, like, not to say that Tipperary have too many options or anything like that, but
Enda Heffernan's there too. I've been very impressed with Enda Heffernan as well. Like, so
yeah, and like Barry Heffernan can obviously play in the half back line, but to me, he's going with Land of the Giants for the middle of the field, and not that Willie Connors is overly tall, but he's well able to throw it about, and by God, he could hurl in a phone box.
Oh yeah, and I do think we need that kind of hurling the phone box player in the middle of the field. It's sort of a Darragh O'Donovan type who can see the field. He can do a lot of the things Noel McGrath can do, but from a deeper position. Like, that's why I sort of been saying, if you were going to, if you didn't have Willie Connors this year, would you play Noel McGrath further back so he could see the field around him, see more of what's ahead? What if Willie Connors can do an awful lot of that job. He's a lot of those traits. Like, he's very comfortable on the ball, doesn't panic, and he generally always finds his man with it.
In the last couple of years, there'd be a bit of commentary around Patrick Horgan. Will he start for Cork? Will he start for Cork? And now he'll be 36 this summer, but he's going to start for Cork. Is there going to be an element of some of this around the likes of Noel McGrath, who's just been? He's going to be one of Tipperary's greatest ever players, no doubt about that. But is there going to be that commentary around him this year? And I'd imagine he's the sort that if he was asked to come on and, be the guy who sort of picks the opposition's pocket in the last 20 minutes and dictate the game, probably be happy to do that. No doubt everyone wants to start. But do you think that conversation will come for him this year?
I'd be surprised if it hasn't been considered, because, look, he was nominated for an All-Star last year. He was probably one of our three best players last year, but there's no doubt as the year went on, his impact on games waned. Well, I don't know whether that was fatigue or what, I don't know, but I'd be definitely, particularly with the likes of him and maybe Bonner Maher, I'd be just making sure that these boys are primed for the summer and primed for the games we want them to be ready for. And, like, I suppose Noel is probably one of those players I would be thinking, if Noel plays against Limerick, he probably won't start against Waterford, or vice versa. If he's held for the bench, he'll probably start the following week. Like, it, maybe asking Noel McGrath to play two intense games in 6 or 7 days is probably not the wisest course in terms of manages and effectiveness. Like, and then I suppose that's where having that deep panel where you can maybe, as say, move guys in and out. Like, say we haven't seen Dan McCormack yet, we haven't seen Conor Stapleton yet, one of our better players last year. Alan Tynan looks like a guy that's really finding himself at this level. He's getting better and better all the time. Like, I thought Dara Stakelum had a couple of nice touches last weekend when he came off the bench. Look, Jake Morris is just an absolute weapon close to goal. Like, I think that's what the one mistake I would have thought from the Galway game last year is that they played him wing forward. Like, he's got to be left close to the goal 1-on-1, because he will take on his man, and he looks so powerful as well. I suppose just to get somebody, maybe when Jason Ford comes back, he'll probably be the man win with him. Like, Sean Ryan did pretty well last weekend. We're still, like, we know Mark Keogh on his day can do anything, but I suppose you can't rely on the day. You need to see more of it. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets a start next weekend.
Yeah, but just it kind of again comes back to all the options. But like, if Keogh can hit top form, he's going to start. Like, but it's just maintain that top form. Andrew Ormond.
Andrew Ormond looked lively. Yeah, no, he's another one. I think definitely as the ground dries up and the firmer days, like he'll come into his own. John McGrath got another good 50 minutes under as well. I'd like to see John maybe play again next weekend. Just allow him to build his confidence up, that he's going to become better and better the more games he gets. The same with Sean Ryan, and I suppose that's what I'd like to see. Maybe not make too many changes, maybe a couple, but allow sort of a team to build. Maybe we start to see who's in line maybe to play in the summer and these things like that. That guys start getting used to playing with each other. I don't know. One position I'm still not nailed on, I think, is goalkeeper. I think Reese sometimes in possession under the high ball, like we saw against Waterford last year, a fumble that led to a bad passage of play that led to concession of a goal. Fumble one in the square in the first half almost led to a Dublin goal. Second, there was a bit of messing in the full back line, almost led to a low. Just, I don't know. I as good as his puck outs and his shot stopping is, I always feel there's a mistake there, and he's probably still at number one, but geez, I'd say Barry Hogan is really, because I still feel Barry is a safer bet, like in terms of, I don't know. Sometimes he makes me a little jumpy, Reese, if he's coming out, especially in open play balls, that he tends to maybe try and force a pass that's not on.
It's the two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Like, as you're saying there, Barry Hogan is probably a safe pair of hands in all the positive ways. Does so well. The other side, Reese is probably a bit more of a maverick, sort of guy who put it through the eye of a needle.
Yeah.
It can be spectacular at times, but it can have you on the edge of your seat. But just down to what the management want. Do they want to play it safe, or do they want to force the issue? Because to be fair to Reese, when he made his debut against Limerick last year in the Munster Championship, it was brilliant. But also, does he not need to have the experience of playing 10 or 12 games before you can truly it's a really tough one to know.
That's it. And there's no doubt, I think if Reese is their goal, if there is their goalie, I think he's got to play all the big games in the league. He's got to play the Dublin game, he's got to play the Limerick game or the Galway game. You probably maybe would throw Barry, maybe Westmeath or Antrim. I think you've got to, like, there was a lot of when Brendan Cummins was there, he played the majority of the games. And plus the Ronan probably, if Ronan's going to be your full back or Craig Morgan in front, they've got to build an understanding with Reese as well. So I would like if Reese is their number one, I think he should get the majority of the league games just to build up an understanding as well.
Yeah, look, there's the whole idea of having an understanding on the pitch. Like, I totally get it and agree with it. Certainly in specific areas, like if you have two lads playing close to goal, it's nice if they have an understanding, because they'll have patterns of movement and they'll sort of nearly be able to predict what each other's doing in the full back line and with the keeper. But because Tipperary are going to have to change their personnel during the Munster Championship, you'd imagine, I think it's got to be next man up all the time in these league games. Like, if he felt that John McGrath was a little bit quiet, for example, could be any player really, but if he felt that he was quiet, I think whip that player out the next day, put someone else in, get that competition going. Don't just be like, well, this lad's got a bit of a reputation, we'll leave him in there. I think in most positions, especially in the engine room, it's always next man up. You don't perform, you're coming off, someone else is going on, and best, you might get your chance the next day, you might not, but you're always on the edge of your seat that you have to empty the tank.
Yeah, now, I'd be surprised if Tip are going to go really strong this week, because look, they have Westmeath 2 weeks after that. You'll probably see a changes for that. Then probably going really strong then for Limerick, and then depending if you're qualified or not, or you probably see maybe a mixed team maybe going to Belfast. Maybe you make a few changes, all right. But I suppose from in terms of finishing in the top three, you'd have to think that Tip will definitely get 3 wins to finish at minimum third place, and if they're able to pick off either Galway or Limerick, they should finish and get to a semi-final. So that's why I think they'll really go bullheaded for that. Like, if Tip win on Sunday, they're nearly more or less guaranteed a semi-final, bar they mess up royally against Westmeath or Antrim in 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah, and just to talk about Galway coming to town this weekend, they're on the back of a 4-31 to 12-point win over Westmeath. To be fair, you kind of feel sorry for the Westmeath players here. Obviously, they're going out to do their best, and you lose by 31 points. That's very dispiriting. not ideal preparation for championship this year also. And I suppose one of the features is Donal O'Shea is coming to town, obviously, as a Galway player. His dad, who's obviously very well known in Tipperary circles and been involved with some All-Ireland title wins. It'll be odd to see him sort of in training gear, but on the opposite side of the field from Tipperary this weekend.
Yeah, this was going to happen. Yeah, like I'd be. Yeah, that's why I think I'd be surprised if the Tip team that doesn't go out this weekend, particularly the ones that would have worked with him and O'Shea through the years, aren't maybe a little bit more too revved up for this one. And not that they shouldn't be revved up for any game, but just to make sure that the first time we come up against Eamon, we make sure we go out and beat him. And I suppose maybe a small bit of a hangover from the quarter final last year, a bit of pride at stake too, because like Tip just didn't perform last year. Look, we always said it was a 2-point hammering. We were well beaten that day, but the Galway 431 even against a poor Westmeath side was a good score, and it's the one thing Galway do. They're very brilliant. They just, whether it's Laois, whether it's Westmeath, or whether they just make cannon fodder of the weaker teams. Like so, and look, I think it's a great test for both teams this early in the campaign. Like, and so it's for it's particularly for Tipperary. Like I think for both teams, I would think the loser of this game is probably going to struggle to get to a league semi-final. I know I'm not writing either of them off against Limerick, but you're probably if you're anticipating Limerick winning their 5 games, I think Limerick might have Tip and Galway both in Limerick. They definitely have Tip in the Gaelic rounds. This probably is nearly a semi-final playoff next Sunday, even in round 2.
But it depends on what team Limerick put out for the rest of the league and how many lads they hold back. I'd be I'm actually happy that Tipperary had to play in the Gaelic grounds. I think the more exposure to that sort of environment against them in the Lions Den, I think is a good thing. Galway, in some ways, look, they're probably going to get to the league knockout stages. Everyone kind of says it's all about championship, so how bothered they'll be in terms of winning the league, we don't know. But realistically, until you get to either out of Leinster or into the Leinster final, they can sort of bide their time a little bit, keep searching for players. Whereas, it's a mad one for Tipperary. They need to be ready for the Munster Championship from day one. Galway can nearly time themselves for several weeks after that. So it's odd.
Plus the St. Thomas's contingents are not back, and so like you're looking at David Burke, Conor Cooney, Fintan Burke. Like they've a lot of big physical guys to come back, good hurlers, and I suppose Kevin Cooney being ruled out for the rest of the season and it's another blow. Like he had a good campaign last year. So look, there's a lot to look forward to. Like this weekend, I would a home advantage if Tip are at it. Like I think we have a good record against Galway in the league at home. Like if this, just hoping the weather. I know it's to get very cold this weekend. I just hope it's not too cold for us to affect the game that much. Maybe there's talks of snow, but hopefully maybe not Sunday. It might avoid the Midlands. But hopefully it's 3:45 too. It'll be finishing under floodlights. But look, I definitely think it's a game really to look forward. I think there's a lot of good games this weekend. I think this might be the pick of them, just because I suppose it's cross-provincial, really. Like, I suppose it's and look, there's always been a great rivalry between Tip and Galway over the years. Like the Eamon O'Shea factor definitely will be interesting. And then trying to see, can we see glimpses of Eamon O'Shea's style and how they're playing, particularly how they're using the ball. Like, and I think that was the one thing last year when push came to shove against Limerick. When that second half, when they were absolutely eaten alive under their own puckouts, like, and they had very few short options. Like, the one thing Eamon O'Shea's teams did with Tipperary is they were always, it was all about the ball, always about angles, finding space, things like that.
And I was just looking at the Galway team from that win over Westmeath, and the half back line was, all power. Keenan Fahy, Porrick, Mannion, Dahi Burke, like those lads can all cover ground. They're all physical players. Then in midfield, very different profile. Donal O'Shea and Gavin Lee, who got 2 and 4 points respectively. So just a hurling sort of midfield as well. And in the forward line, Evan Nyland, he popped over 11 points. 4 of those were from play. Like, he's a player that Tipperary will have to nail down in this game.
I could see Craig Morgan being detailed for him. Like if he started giving a free role, like he's Craig, like we've seen Craig with Killer One, he's as comfortable out the field as he is a cornerback. Like so, I would think, and you're probably be looking at Ronan Maher and Conor Whelan. That'll be some battle, bull on bull. Like so, and I guess it's all about learning and maybe planning. Maybe if Tip did meet Galway down the line in championship, the trouble Conor Whelan gave us last year, who would be the man to pick him up and maybe not. I suppose it's hard to slow him down if he gets out in front because his touch is so good. But if he has who physically can hold him up,
Barry Heffernan, because he did before. Like Barry Heffernan has really marked him out of games in the past. But he's not, like from what we've seen so far, he's not really been looked at as a defensive option.
Like Tom Monaghan had a good game last weekend. Jason Flynn, I suppose, is one that, the way Eamon O'Shea's second time back, he seemed to get the best out of Seamus Callanan. He sort of got in his head, and there's sort of like seen Jason Flynn named at full forward last weekend, and he got 2-2. He could be in that Seamus Callanan mold. We've seen how good he is. Like it's on his day, Jason Flynn is outstanding. Like so, but will we see that with Galway this year? That Jason Flynn will be told, you're starting every match. Doesn't matter if you're going well or going. You're starting every match. We trust you, and he could be that sort of a. He could be that. I wouldn't say he's a find, but a find in a how would you say, a starter sort of a way that like Conor Cooney's a sort of a guy that, you just don't know what from 1 year to the next you'll get a Conor Cooney. Like he could be brilliant or he could be looking towards the sideline. So I think Galway could definitely do with an experienced guy nailing down an attacking position with Whelan and with Nyland, and then Flynn could be the one.
Yeah, 29 now, so it really is time for him to step up. And
he's won a percentage. I think that was the 2012 minor semi-final. I think Jason Flynn would have been the star man for that Galway team.
Yeah, and he's played in All-Ireland finals going all the way back to 2015. Yeah. So in terms of experience, he definitely has that. And how do you think this? Do you think Tipperary pick up a victory here? Like, from my own point of view, you just have no idea what teams are going to start. It's kind of it's difficult to make a call.
Yeah, no, I'd be surprised if both teams don't go strong. Like Tip could make 2 or 3 changes, especially maybe maybe guys who need minutes. I don't, even if the changes, I don't think it'll overly change maybe the style of play. No, I do think maybe home advantage, maybe the fact that Galway are not at full strength without the St. Thomas's guys. So look, I think Tip have got to try and take advantage of this and go bullheaded for the win this weekend.
Yeah, and then the Tipperary footballers beating Longford after losing the first day out against Carlow. It is great to get that win on the board for Paul Kelly because, I'd say the manner of the Carlow defeat that probably shook a few people up, locally. So it's, that's a great boost for him and for a very young panel.
Oh yeah, I know. It was. I was up there on Saturday in Longford or Sunday in Longford. Yeah, it was. I know it was a very, very good victory. Like in terms of away from home, it's been a venue that Tip have lost a fair bit in the recent years against Longford, off the back of the Carlow defeat. And I know I said on the show last week that there was a lot of elements to like about the performance against Longford, some of the attacking play, but just mistakes, defensive mistakes, cost them 3 goals. And I suppose it was and they were ultimately the reason why they lost. And I suppose Paul Kelly remarked after on Sunday that we didn't concede any goals last weekend, made fewer mistakes, and we won the game. So look, from that point of view, I think he was pretty pleased from that point of view. But I thought just the mentality again, the gritty nature of that team. Got off to a bad start, 4 points to 1 down with the breeze. You said, "Oh God, we're in trouble here." But then, a lot like the Carlow game, when Tip conceded, sort of allowed Carlow their own kick out short. Like, I think that's one area where Tip, as they evolve, they'll get stronger in. It was too easy for Carlow to work the ball up the field and they were too easy to penetrate against scoring areas. But then when Tip decided, okay, you're not getting the short kick out, you can stick it in long. Like Tip, and they forced the Longford kick out, started to break down. balls were going out over the sideline. Tip were winning kickouts, and like they started to keep the scoreboard ticking over. And then just from the mentality point of view, like Stephen O'Brien scores an absolutely gorgeous point, banana kick outside of the right foot. Then a minute later, he goes down, pulls up with a hamstring. You think, God, our captain is gone. Our midfield powerhouse is gone. And you think, God, we're really in trouble here, because coming up to half time, that they don't have too big of a lead. But then in the second half, just real gritty stuff. Like the Tip scored more against the wind in the second half than they did with it. Like just Paddy Creedon, I thought, was absolutely brilliant. Like he sort of filled that void around the middle of the field in terms of ball winner. Like he just used his power to great effect. Got it, carried it on. Teddy Doyle was prominent. Cahill Deely, James Morris. Like it was all, I suppose, from a Tip point of view going forward, it was the young guys who really dragged them through. And then Sean O'Connor up front gets 3 points in play. So I think from that point of view, you think of this is practically a new team, very few survivors from the 2020 teams still left there, and just to have the young guys really taking the thing by the scruff of the neck away from home in difficult conditions. Like the wind was very, very strong on Sunday for crossfield breeze. But anytime Longford got back within a point, you think that they're going to get a run, as Tip were able to go back up the field, either kick one from play or draw a foul and Sean O'Connor knock over a free. So just from that point of view, mentality-wise and a bit of mental toughness, a bit of fortitude, as impressive as their footballing play was, I think the whole package, like, they'd be pretty content with what happened at the weekend.
Yeah, slightly odd one then for Paddy Christie, the Longford manager, who's been involved with the Tip seniors and under 20s in the past couple of years. I don't know, did you get a chance to chat to him afterwards?
Yeah, I was chatted briefly with him afterwards. Yeah, I think he was, I suppose, disappointed. Like, I suppose that O'Byrne Cup curse again. I think how many times we've seen it over the years that a team has a good O'Byrne Cup and they struggle in the league because it's mad, and like they've lost their first 2 league games. And yeah, while he was disappointed with the performance, he did think overall the game probably could have been better. But then there's such a huge turnover from even his time at Tipperary to 2022 would have been last year with Tip. So an awful lot of new guys there that he wouldn't have realised. But I think one of them would have been Paddy Creedon. He would have had him for a year or two, and that's just for Paddy really probably to announce himself at this level against Paddy Christie. I'm sure that was a frustration for him. But yeah, no, I'm sure in some ways, while he was disappointed for Longford, I'm sure he was maybe happy in one ways that maybe the Tip team, I suppose he's Laura connections. He's one from Laura, like, so he's a strong connection with Tip, that just see maybe Tip going the right way again. And look, Tip are in good shape. Like, they have a weekend off now, they can refocus. They go to London, tricky game now on Sunday week, but like if you could win that, and just the manner where they're not afraid to go forward. Like they don't overdo the lateral passing. They do try and take things on. And like if they were to beat London, then they have 3 home games back to back, and like it's still early days. There's 5 games to go. Probably too early to talk about promotion, but it's definitely a possibility for them there if they just keep that momentum going from Longford. And I suppose maybe this trip to London is a bit timely. You're probably one or 2 nights away, sort of a mini bonding session where maybe the management and players can get to know each other a little better as well. So probably just that while these trips to New York can be difficult, they're it's sort of a nice sort of distraction in terms of how it can be used probably next week.
Yeah. Okay, then the Tipperary ladies footballers in Division 2 had a 2-8 to 5 points win over Laois. Emma Morrissey scored 5, Angela McGuigan won 1, Nasa Towie scored a goal, and Niamh Martin and Anna Downey scored a point each. So an impressive victory there.
Yeah, good win. I suppose without Aisling Maloney too, so to win that by 9 points without your star forward was impressive. I suppose from that point of view, when Aisling does tend to be double, if not triple marked at times, and it can be sort of difficult maybe if a lot of ball is sent in her way. Whereas in this game, maybe Laois with player for player and the likes of Emma Morrissey and Nasa Towie really took up the slack. So look, after losing to Tyrone to get back on the horse was excellent. Like, that's 2 wins from 3 away games to start, and now they're back at home, I think, on Sunday week against Kildare, who are riding high at the top of the table. So I think that's a big game. If Tip are able to win that, they would really be back in the promotion hunt. Because they're already, I suppose, behind Tyrone in the head-to-head. If Tip managed to reel in Tyrone, they'd be behind in that head-to-head. So Tip could really do with beating Kildare, and Kildare maybe getting there. And I suppose getting some bit of a head-to-head benefit if things got tight later on in the campaign. But it's a good start there.
Any other business before we finish up?
I suppose it was a shout out to I suppose what else have we? That's a Shannon Rovers in a Munster Junior B semi-final this weekend, so we wish them the best of luck. There is, it's I suppose after a feast last weekend, a small bit of a famine, I suppose. I suppose Tip and Galway's nearly the marquee game next weekend. No football league games next weekend, but a lot of good hurling matches. You have Cork and Kilkenny Saturday night. I'm sure Waterford and Clare will be tasty in Walsh Park on Sunday with a look ahead to next summer.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, look, that's it from the show this week. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget to pick up a copy of the Nenagh Guardian. Shane, chat to you then.
Talk to you.